Yo, what is going on, guys? Dr. Schwaz here. Welcome back to another video. Today's video, I'm going to be discussing class recommendations and tips in relation to mastering all Operation 3 hives. So in today's video, I'm going to be discussing basically tips and tricks, detailed discussion on the following 6 hives in Operation 3. Those are the Barracks, the Choke, lethal engagements, the end, melee brawl, and the corruption. So I'm just going through all 6 of those hives in detail. I'll have some map overhead as I'm talking. I'm displaying the layout of the hive, what's in each supply room, the weapon spawns, talking about the enemies, the mutators a little bit as well, and just discussing my recommended classes for mastering all the Operation 3 hives as a group, and some honorable mentions as well. So let's get started here with the Barracks. Alrighty, guys, so the Barracks, before I start talking about the Barracks, I want to mention a couple of things. If you are interested in full-length detailed tutorials on each hive, I mastered all 31 hives with a group. They're going to be on the channel in a playlist called Escape Hive Tutorials, so be sure to check that out if you wanted more detailed tutorials specifically on the maps themselves. This is going to be a video where I'm just going to be discussing the hives briefly a little bit, and then talking about classes I recommend bringing depending on the weapons that are available in the supply rooms, the enemies that are available, and vice versa. So let's get started here. The Barracks is the first hive in Operation 3, and it introduces, in Operation 3, the hives introduced 2 new things that weren't introduced prior. The first thing is venom fans. So basically what they do is they slow down the venom at a particular point, allowing your team to survive certain encounters. Sometimes there may be a venom fan prior to a bridge that you may need to cross, such like in this hive. They can also give your team more time to fight certain areas so that you can survive. Some of the venom fans are 30 seconds, some are 60. A few later, in a couple hives from now, are 45. The next thing I want to talk about is, so there's the venom fans, and then what's new in Operation 3 is there's also drawbridges, or bridges that basically have a lift that you have to wait on in order to cross it. So you'll see on the map overheads that I'll indicate the time it takes for the bridge to lift. And usually when you pull the handle for the bridge, you're going to have to wait about a minute, sometimes 45 seconds, sometimes longer than a minute. And then usually it will spawn some enemies nearby that you'll have to fight before crossing the bridge. Barracks has 2 safe rooms in the first chapter. The left safe room is a much harder pathway. There's more resistance to get there. But there are 2 additional 60-second fans if you do head towards that direction. 90% of the time I do this map, maybe even 99% of the time, we basically go to the right safe room where there's 2 drawbridges, and what we'll do is we'll have one person pull both handles, pull the handle of the first bridge, wait while the other 2 are fighting the jubies or whatever else is spawning as we head to the second ammo room. On the left side of the map overhead, you'll see here, and then while the first bridge comes up, the person that's there will pull the second one. By the time we get ammo from the ammo room, kill all the enemies, pull the fans, both bridges will be down, and then we'll just run to the safe room and avoid fighting the Bastion, Scion, or whatever is there prior to the safe room. So again, 9 times out of 10, I prefer the right safe room on this hive. Classes I recommend bringing. So in the first ammo room, you have a retro and an ensign, 2 ensigns. And the second supply room on the left, you have 2 ensigns and a drop shot. So I recommend bringing a tactician. You can take advantage of the drop shot. Blade Master works really good here because of waiting for the venom. She can be really survivable, very useful here as well. Infiltrator and Marksman. The interesting thing about those classes is, and a lot of the hives, the RNG favors either you get grenadiers or you get hunters or snipers, right? So depending on what you pull in the first spawn, you're gonna get drones and snipers. So bringing a marksman can be useful, and then or you can get drones and grenadiers. So then they have Nasher. So bringing a infiltrator can be useful there as well. Oftentimes, what I notice is sometimes you'll bring a marksman, but you'll get the spawn favored for the infiltrator, and vice versa. So it's a gamble between the spawn RNG, but there is um, long shots available in the second half if you take the right save for the marksman. So I'd still bring one. He can be very useful in certain situations. I'd also recommend a gunner. Um, there's a lot of drones in a lot of areas, so you can clear out the enemies, especially in the second half, be very useful, especially if you go to the left safe room. So I recommend that as well. Some honorable mentions: Nomad. He can run the execution build if you run that class. So you run what phase, execution shield, um, menace, and retrocharge everything to keep enemies in fear. That can be useful. Brawl is really good. There's a lot of small enemies, juvies, imagos, drones. Veteran can be good here too. There's a retro lancer, so he can use his ultimate, clear out rooms in the second half. You get wardens, multiple scions. You could bring a veteran. He can clear that out for you, and he doesn't need to be in the venom to be effective. So anchor as well. Bleeding Boltok can be effective in venom and out of venom. So those are the classes I recommend. Like I said, I recommend going to the right safe room. Why? Because there's 2 supply rooms, one on the left in the second half has 3 long shots, one on the right has M-bar torque. So tactician, marksman, really good there. Like I said, and then in the second half, if you take the right safe room, which is the main safe room you take most of the time, that I've seen people run the barracks. There's 3 Venom fans. I'll show them the map overhead here. 60 seconds each. And then if you go to the left safe room path, which is a bit harder in my opinion, there's going to be also 3 Venom fans with 60-second wait times, and then there'll be an ammo room with 2 shocks and a long shot. A little more difficult to go the left pathway. Heck, in case you miss the bridges, you may have to be forced to go there, but there's some resistance. Some enemies you have to fight hard to entering the safe room that way. And that is pretty much the barracks. So classes I recommend again, tactician, because of the drop shot. You have also a possibility of pulling a salvo scion in the second half, depending on the RNG. In the first main encounter you can either have warden, or you can have multiple scions like salvo, buzzkill, drop, so you can get heavy weapons or explosive weapons from those. Blade Master can be really useful because there's a warden somewhere in the second half, whether it's in the first encounter or the second, depends on the RNG you pull. Once you get a breaker mace, and once the Blade Master's in the venom, it's game over. She's be very powerful. Infiltrator, as long as there's a Nasher somewhere, whether you pull it immediately or not, you're either going to get it from a Grenadier or Elite Grenadier, and almost every Hive has those, so those are definitely a great class to bring. Marksman, if you pull snipers in the beginning, great. If not, in the second half, you're bound to find one in the ammo rooms. I think Gunner is also great here because of this torque bow in the second half. If you go to the right safe room, it's in the supply room to the right, coming out of the safe room there. So, serrated edge, torque bow bleed, reflect shredder, works really good. And that is pretty much it for the barracks, and move on to the next hive. Alrighty guys, the next hive we talk about is the choke. So this is an interesting hive. The mutator is shown on the top left. Venom resistant, which means the enemies and you take less damage in the venom. More health, more lethal. Typical mutators on every hive, pretty much. Add bastions, so there's bastions in most encounters that you fight. Freezing grenadiers, so be careful about that. Poison flushers, so like jubies and drones will drop poison puddles upon death, and then Iron Man, of course, standard mutator on every hive. Respawn at the last checkpoint if the whole team wipes. So, the way this hive works is you basically, in the first act, you're going to spawn, and you'll run into either multiple RNGs, drones or snipers, drones, grenadiers, something like that. So depending on what you get, infiltrator if you have nashers, marksman if you have snipers. However, bringing a marksman is great to bring anyway because once you make it up the ladder, the staircase, past the first fight, there's going to be right in front of you. There's going to be a bridge that leads to the safe room, and maybe you'd be tempted to pull the drawbridge handle and wait for the bridge, but I don't recommend doing that because it'll spawn a lot of enemies and you won't have any ammo to fight them. So there's going to be two pathways. The right pathway is going to have an ammo room marked as ammo room 2. It's got a long shot, torque bow, flashbang, explosive crate. So marksman, great to bring. He's got a long shot you can use. Gunner is great to bring, or tactician because there's a torque bow and explosive crates that can be advantageous. And then on the left pathway, the first ammo room there, known as ammo room 1, I have on the map here. There's 2 lancers, an overkill, shock, and explosive crate. And then each side has a venom fan that delays the venom by 60 seconds each. The bridge takes 75 seconds from when you pull the handle. It takes 75 seconds for the bridge to come up so you can cross it to go to the safe room. And then when you pull the bridge, there's going to be a bunch of jubies that spawn, grenadiers, drones. Straight across from you, there's going to be scions with bastions, usually buzzkill and ice from what I've noticed from playing the hive. I think Brawler is really good to bring on this as well because he's a really good distraction, especially helping you get to the ammo rooms and the venom fan safely. Lots of jubies and small enemies he can take care of, and his stim and survivability really works really well against the freezing grenadiers. He doesn't get frozen like immediately compared to other lower health characters, so I recommend that class as well. In the second half, it's a similar layout to the first half, so you spawn in the safe room. There's 3 ammo crates and a flashbang, by the way. And then there's going to be a slide all the way down. And then you're going to fight some drones and grenadiers. One of the grenadiers will be bastion, so be careful. Make sure that whoever has a torque bow or a sniper takes it out before you move forward. And then it's very similar to the first act. There's going to be a drawbridge straight ahead up a ramp right to the helipad. And then you may be inclined to press it again, but you want to make sure you go. There's going to be 2 staircases, one on the left, one on the right, that lead up to areas with a couple of enemies and then some ammo. If you take the left pathway, which is what I suggest, especially if you bring a marksman and a gunner or a tactician, the left pathway, one of the paths is going to have jubies that you have to fight on the way up the staircase, so be careful about that. And more than like, I'm pretty sure there's always a drop shot slam on the side on the left, so the tactician or gunner can take advantage of that. So as you see in the map over here, there's 2 venom fans that add 45 seconds delay each. And then there's a bunch of explosive crates, 2 explosive crates, 3 medium stims, 2 large ammo crates, and a breaker mace. So Blade Master can have a lot of fun with that too. So I have an honorable mention. Anchor's an honorable mention here too. It's lots of ammo. And he is useful outside of the venom, so he can be useful here too. Pilot can be good because you can get drop shots, and really helpful at the end, causing a distraction for your other two teammates while you're killing the scions and all the drones that spawn as you're waiting for the bridge to come up. If you go to the right, there's going to be an ammo room with a 60-second venom van with marks at MBAR, explosive crate, and shot grenade. So your sniper can be happy there. Marksman can refill ammo. Nomad's useful here too if he's running marks of cards. And especially there's a Lancer in the first half, so he can get that and chainsaw. Drones and enemies put them in fear. Can be really useful when things get hectic. And then this is a 75-second drawbridge again in the second half. A bunch of enemies spawn when you pull it, and you just have to wait, fight everything, and then run to the helipad. So again, the classes I recommend here. Before I talk about that, the choke is the only hive, or specifically a hive that has super slow venom. I want to mention that. So it's certainly a hive you can take your time on. So I mean, I'd pull the venom pans anyway on master. You don't want to take any risks, but there's more than enough time to fight everything. So I just want to let you know, there's no faster venom. It's actually super slow, which is really nice. So classes I recommend, of course, infiltrator or marksman. Like I mentioned before, it's a gamble on whether you get grenadiers or snipers in the spawning. What comes first? But infiltrator, it's hardly ever useless to bring one, because almost every hive, like I think off the top of my head, almost every hive has some sort of grenadier or elite grenadier that you can at least get a Nasher overkill from. Marksman, you can get a sniper from the safe room, a long shot from the ammo room, sorry. Gunner and tactician, there's lots of explosive ammo. Brawler, really good, lots of torque bows, lots of small enemies that he can tackle and cause a distraction to divert the enemy's attention away from the other teammates. And then honorable mentions, Anchor, Blade Master, Pilot, Nomad. So I'm not limiting. Of course, there are other classes you can bring. I just sort of wanted to make a tier list and kind of bring my top 5 in for each hive. I'll be having these for all of them. So you can just see what I recommend. And that's pretty much the choke. Let's move on to the next hive. Alright guys, lethal engagements is the next hive I'm going to be talking about. This is basically a sniping heavy map, so bringing a marksman is really good on this. Before I get started, I'm going to talk about the meteors. There's lethal enemies, so enemies do extra damage to you. Heads up is a very important one I want to mention. The enemies, basically what this means is you have to headshot the enemies, or shoot them in the head to deal any damage to them. Shooting them in a body shot does like 1% of the damage, so the only way you can kill enemies in this hive is headshot or critical hits or melee combo, or if you're Blade Master, her ultimate. So just want to let you know about that. Vampiric enemies, so enemies that gain health as they do damage to you. Ultra stopping power, self-explanatory, very annoying mutator. Faster venom and shock rifle drones. So cool thing about this hive, no Iron Man, so that's good. So let's get started here. First encounter, you're gonna have two. You're gonna pretty much get a sniper in the beginning, so that's why I recommend bringing a marksman. You're gonna get pilfer ammos right after the first two snipers you fight. Sniper and hunter. And then in the first supply room, there's a Marx's, flashbangs, and long shot as well. And then after you go around the corner, there's a couple more drones you can fight. I recommend also bringing an Anchor, because he can serve as a great secondary sniper. So you can grab a second long shot from the ground or supply room, and with Adrenaline Junkie on, which causes you to do more damage in the venom. And the Anchor's new passive, where he does 50% more damage through his shield or his barrier, Anchor could be really good with the sniper or marksman or any marksman weapon through the barrier and in the venom. So I think that's a great character to bring, class to bring. Also, there's plenty of ammo for Bloody Shot, Bolt Talk as well. Blade Master's really good here. Like I said, with the heads up mutator, you can't kill them unless you melee combo them or headshot them, or use Lonnie's ultimate. However, she's got a lot of cards where she can survive near bleeding enemies, so when the enemies are bleeding, she can be really good. Really useful in certain fights, like the fight before the safe room, where there's lots of drones and elite drones. So really good there, and really good in the second half as well. Especially taking out the stomps or the drop shot science, whatever have you. Infiltrator is great to bring as well because there are grenadiers or elite grenadiers that you're going to fight. Maybe not at the very beginning, but throughout the first act you will see some. So I'd recommend bringing that as well. Honorable mentions. I'm going to get to that in a second. Second half, you're going to have more Marxa ammo in the supply room, Pilfer, Flashbang, and then you're going to fight elite snipers in a stump, or elite grenadiers in a stump. If you pull the stump right outside the safe room, you won't have one at the end. But if you pull the, I forget what the alternate is. I think it's Scion, Buskill Scion. Then you're going to pull the stump at the end. But I discussed that more in the Lethal Engagements full tutorial. Check that out on the channel on the Escape Hives tutorials playlist if you'd like to see that. 2 supply rooms. Third supply room here, it's got flashbang and ammo crates. The other supply room is going to be down a ramp, down a ladder, underneath a tile, basically. There's flashbang, M-bar, and pilfer and large ammo crates. You could bring a tactician. I don't recommend it because unless he's running like disciplined and cards like that, you probably, that's why you don't see him on the list. There are drop shot signs at the end, but that's at the very end. So Brawler is really good here. So once you go down the ramp in the first act, you're either going to pull a Sire or a Buskill Scion, and then there'll be like a whole wave of snipers. So he can be a good diversion for that. Also a good diversion for the fight before the safe room and the fight at the end. So really good there. I've seen a pilot be useful here. There are drop shots at the end from the Scions you pull. Could be also really good in certain scenarios like before the safe room. Rear armor is really nice because you can get shot from a lot of angles on that hive. The silverback can be really useful before the safe room and at the LZ. I've seen it being a decent asset to mastering this hive. Protector is another honorable mention. Like I said, you can only melee combo, right? So that'd be all they got good for really on this hive. So I recommend Blade Master more. That's the best melee class in my opinion because you have healing and bleeding. Versus Protector, you just bleed all the time, no matter what. And this is the first and maybe only time you'll ever see Robotics Expert on one of these videos, is because since this is a sniper-oriented dive, Robotics Expert could not be too terrible on this because there is a long shot and an M-bar and a Marxa. Torque bows, you could pull in the second half, I believe, as an option. It counts as a precision weapon in the bloody support card for some reason, but in certain other cases it doesn't count. But Robotics Expert can be really good. He has bloody support and experimental weapons. That combo can work really well. And then of course he has his bloody DR1, which I believe probably won't do any damage unless the tri-shot DR1 shoots him in the head. But that could be a decent class to bring as well. And that pretty much sums up lethal engagements. Like I said, top 5 classes I recommend: Marksman, Anchor, Blade Master, Nomad, and Infiltrator. Alright guys, next hive is the End. This is the only 1-act hive in Operation 3, and in my opinion probably the hardest one. Maybe Melee Brawl is a pretty good close second, so this is a 1-act hive. The mutators are shielded heavies, so the scions have shields on them. You either have a possibility of Mulcher or Salvo scions. More health, more lethal, standard mutators on every hive. This hive has shorter ultimate, so just like Ice Queen from Operation 2, the ultimate is only like a quarter of the length of the regular ultimate. So you want to bring classes that have cards that extend the ultimate, like Resupply Duration for Tactician, or cards like that. Ammo Starvation is also a mutator as well. And then the enemies regenerate health here too, and there's Iron Man. So on this map overhead, pretty detailed. This is one of few hives with weapons in the spawn room. So you have a Hammer Burst, Lancer, Gnasher, and 3 large ammo crates. Gnasher and 3 ammo crates. Right to your head, you think Infiltrator is really good for this, and it is, but I would recommend bringing a Tactician because there are so many enemies in this hive, you may run out of Gnasher and overkill ammo. So just want to let you all know about that. Nomad could be really good here with his execution build. When he pulls Lancer out, he can chainsaw juvies, drones, sires, whatever have you. Put nearby enemies in fear using execution shield. That card gives him full stim, and he takes no damage from executions. Phase puts nearby enemies in fear, and then Menace recharges his fear again for the next use. So I've seen Paddock or Nomad really good on this hive. Also, when he puts the shielded scions in fear, he could use his Armored Shots bleed card and shoot the scions in the back, since the back will be exposed and he can do damage that way. So really cool. Bring Nomad on this. Tactician and Demolitions work really well here. So there's 3 paths. The first door is going to lead to an ammo room with the GL. The second door is the one that you go to if you want to bring a Tactician and Demolitions, because there is a supply room with a lot of stuff in it. So it's got 5 large explosive crates, a drop shot, a torque bow, a salvo, and a boom. And then a venom fan for 60 seconds. And then on the bridges, in the second supply room area, you're gonna have either drop shot scions or stumps. Drop shot scions, if you have drop shot scions, I'm not going to get too much into RNG, but if you have drop shot scions there, you're going to have Mulcher scions in the main room for the landing pad, and then if you have stumps on the bridges, you're going to have Salvo scions in the main room before the end. Just want you know that. Gunner is also really good here because he's got torque bow, so that works with serrated edge, and then he's got explosive weapons, so heavy capacity is a great card. And then of course concussive explosives when they get within the 15-meter radius. So those are the top 5 classes I recommend. There's a third pathway you can take. Almost never go there. There's another Venom fan. All the Venom fans are 60 seconds here, so there's one right at the beginning. That's 60 seconds. There's one in the first supply room, one in the second, one in the third. And then there's a large door after the third that'll lead you to this large room where you'll fight all these enemies. So the third supply room, like I said, all that's really got: ammo crates, long shot M-bar, shock grenade. That's really it. I wouldn't even recommend bringing a marksman. Yeah, I mean, you have long shot, but there are so many enemies, and the ultimate is so short that it's very unlikely you may be able to snipe a significant amount of enemies in the time that you're in Foz's ultimate. So, in my estimation, I don't think it's worth really ever going there unless you're doing a score run. Honorable mentions, Blade Master is really good here. The Venom is super slow, and you kind of need it to be because you need a time to fight all the enemies, so you can drag enemies back into the Venom, and the Blade Master can kill the Juvies, Signers, drones, whatever, pretty well. Again, shorter ultimate, meaning it's like the ultimate's like a quarter of the time, so she may have a time to kill like one Scion with her ultimate, and that's it. Brawler is really good here. You want to bring classes, since there's ammo starvation, it's really good to bring at least a class that doesn't rely on ammo. So Brawler is really good to bring. He can tackle all the GBs in the large room preceding the ending. The sires, the mounters, all the smaller enemies, he can take care of very well. Marksman already mentioned his honorable mention. You can bring him, but of course against the Scions he ain't gonna really do much. So he might take out some of the elite drones that you may have to fight at the very end. But certainly not a top 5 class for this Hive. Pilot is also good here because you can get a drop shot in the supply room, the second one. And I've seen the Silverback be pretty useful in the room, fending off some GVs and Sires and some of the smaller enemies. Coastal Creeps kind of draws attention to itself in a way that allows the other classes to deal with their certain battles, so that's a good class to bring as well. Recommend bringing rear armor and aggressive armor as well, because you're likely gonna get shot and flanked from multiple directions. And that is pretty much the end. So yeah, top 5 classes. Infiltrator is an Asher in the beginning. Nomad, there's a Lantern in the beginning, so you can run his execution build. Tactician and demolitions, because there's tons of explosive weapons. There is a Lancer GL in the first room. You do have to fight your way there, of course, to get it, and then fight your way back. I don't recommend demolitions on a lot of Hives because unless there's a lot of ammo, he's going to really need a tactician with him. I'll honestly recommend, if you run a demo, run a tact and escape, because then you have 2 explosive DPS classes raining hell on all the enemies, and they can do lots of damage. So Gunner really good too. Again, heavy weapon, specialist strike with the salvo and the explosives. So that's pretty much the end. Moving on to the next one. Alrighty guys, Melee Brawl is the next hive I want to mention and talk about. Indicated by the name, melee classes are going to be really good on this. So this is the only hive with pipes on it. This is the same pipes from the campaign mission in Act 2. On the Niles Lab mission. So you're going to spawn in the ammo room, go directly to an ammo room that's going to have 5 pipes. And then there's going to be a slide to the right. You go down to the right. You may run into sires and snipers and stuff like that. If you go down to the left, there's a supply room with pipes, flashbangs, and a frag. So before I get into too much detail on top of the mutators, freezing Imago bullets. It is pretty annoying, but it's not that bad. Definitely want to bring characters that have a lot of damage resistance, which is why in my top 5 I have Blade Master and Infiltrator. And then more health, more lethal. Those are basic mutators. Enemies do more melee damage. Again, you want to have classes that take melee resistance. So Blade Master is really good for this. Brawler is really good for this as well. Shock Wardens, Faster Venom, and Iron Man. So yeah, I recommend Blade Master. Be very effective in the venom. It's a hive you need a lot of patience for. The venom is slow, even though it's faster venom. Certain parts it may be ahead of it, so you need to wait on it for that class to be effective. I recommend Protector isn't too bad to bring, and it's another melee class. The only advantage the Protector has really is that they can do bleeding without venom. So he can grab a pipe and then he can start whacking away at the Imagos immediately. The main risk is there he doesn't have the survivability that Blade Master does. Infiltrator is good. You were bound to find a Grenadier or an Elite Grenadier. Not in the very first fight, but in the early first chapter, you will see a Grenadier or Elite Grenadier either on the staircase or prior to the safe room. Brawler is really good here because he's got the stim and the survivability to basically negate the freezing effect of the Imago bullets. You can also torch tackle them in basically 1 or 2 hits. Tackle the Scion, the Sires, things like that. Brawler is really good on creating the diversion for the rest of your team. Gunner is really good here too. There isn't any heavy weapons or explosive weapons really, not in the first chapter for him or ever really. But I recommend bringing him because he's got team resist. So if you're in a dangerous situation, he can use his ultimate and you'll get 95% damage resistance during that 6-second period. And also he's got freeze resist, so the freezing Imago bullets, it takes a very long time to freeze. So probably isn't a terrible class to bring in my opinion. The second, once you get through the first act, you're gonna kill a warden prior to the safe room, so you get a breaker mace there. That'll make your Blade Master really happy. The safe room has got 3 pipes and 2 flashbangs. Outside the safe room, there's going to be a buzzkill or an ice scion, depending on the RNG you pull, so be careful. Typically, the best strategy there is to flashbang it, let it get in the safe room, and then kill it in the venom. My opinion. And then in that supply room to the left, outside the safe room, there's another breaker mace, so maybe you can bring in a protector, so another melee character can take advantage of it. And then ammo rooms 5 and 6 you see on this overhead here. These are 2 ammo rooms. They got flashes, pipes, cryo, and ammo in the one ammo room, and then pipes and shocks in the other. And there's a drawbridge that takes only 45 seconds to rise to the top, so you can cross it. That is a pretty crazy fight. And usually what we do is we sit in the ammo room 6 on the map, basically, plant shocks, and then fight our way out that way. And then there's going to be 2 wardens at the end and a bunch of elite drones you have to fight before you make the LZ. Honorable mentions for this hive. Marksman can work pretty good here. If you go down the ramp on the first act to the right, you will fight some Imagos and Sires, so whatever you have on the left side is the opposite of spawn on the right. So if you go down the ramp to the left, you either have 3 Imagos and that's it, or you can have like 3 Jubies and a Sire or something like that. So you'll have either one of those spawns, or whatever you have on the left, you'll have the other on the right. After that, there's going to be another room with snipers hiding in it, like in a balcony. So if you go that way, you can bring a marksman, because I don't think there's anywhere else there are any snipers, not that I am aware of on the top of my head. Striker, probably the only hive I recommend Striker on. Hey, it's a promotional class. It can be really fun at certain situations. This is, I think, a really good hive for it actually, because there's a pipe and then there's a breaker mace early on in the first act. Before the safe room, there's a warden that you have to kill. So, sure, bring the Striker, try it out, have fun with it. Let me know how it goes. Anchor could be good here. Plenty of ammo for the bolt talk. the Crazy Tough helps with the not being frozen immediately from the freezing Imagos. Um, and of course, Venom X does more damage than the Venom with the card on. Adrenaline Junkie, so you can bring a Anchor. I've seen Nomad good here. Um, so basically, there isn't like a Lancer or a Retro that you can use to like use the execution build to put enemies in fear, but you can melee combo them and do the same thing, right? So I've seen that been used too. Be pretty useful, especially with armored shot. You can get an Asher, and then do a lot of damage to nearby enemies. So, and maybe you may use Nomad for other reasons, like well, maybe you're about to get killed by a popper and you don't have any ammo to kill it or anything. Put it in fear, make it run away. Uh, maybe run the terror card. Maybe they're in fear longer. Keeps your team alive. So I've seen that class useful here too. Again, top 5 classes for Melee Brawl. Blade Master, Protector, Infiltrator, Brawler, and Gunner. And then honorable mentions to Marksman, Striker, Anchor, and Nomad. And that is pretty much class recommendations for Melee Brawl. It's one of the trickier highs in Op 3. Definitely need a good team for this, and a lot of patience if you're bringing Venom dependent classes like Blade Master or Anchor. And let's move on to the very last hive in Operation 3. Alrighty guys, so the last hive in Operation 3 was the Corruption. And this is basically, as the picture shows here, a reject-oriented hive. So the mutators are poison rejects, and so the rejects, when they get killed, they leave a gigantic poison puddle. It's like 10 meters wide. It's huge. You'll see the gameplay as I'm talking of the master run we did. There's more health, more lethal, standard mutators, ammo starvation. So you don't get much less ammo from ammo pickups. It also has longer recharge, so there's a few highs with longer recharge. The Mines is one. The Descent is another one I'm thinking of on the top of my head. So you want to bring classes that have cards or classes that have shorter ultimates, like Nomad has a relatively short ultimate, I think 3.5 minutes. Brawler has a 4-minute ultimate, so those are good classes to bring. Because longer recharge, I believe, makes it like 4 times longer. So you want to bring classes with slow ult charge, super fast ult charge, or classes with decent ult charge that have cards to make them come back faster. So, like Blade Master has a great card called Ambush, where if you do damage from behind and kill an enemy, you get ult charge, like 30 seconds off a kill, which is really good to bring. So, longer recharge is a mutator here. Ghost rejects, so they ghost within 10 meters. I think everyone's aware that that's buggy. I've seen them ghost from way further out, but just be wary that they do ghost and unghost very often. And then Iron Man. So this is the first act. There's 5 supply rooms, and so the first one's got on the very left Lancer, flashbangs, and ammo crates. The second one's got a boom, frag, stim pack. Third one's got Nasher, frag, and a stim pack and explosive crates. So Brawler is really good for tackling the rejects. He has a lot of survivability and stim. With pretty much full stim, he can run through the poison puddles without taking a lot of damage. He can't just run in them forever, but he can run across like a pool of it to advance across the hive. So that's cool. Blade Master is really good here. The Thrill of the Hunt cards and the Venom Blade. You can melee the rejects, do bleed damage, get healing with the passive and the cards, and be very useful here too. Tactician is great because there's a boom shot in the supply room number 2 that I have on the map overhead here. Nomad I've seen useful here too because there's a Lancer. You can run the execution build, chainsawing rejects, putting other rejects in fear, gaining stim, recharging his ultimate faster, using phase and menace. I've seen Nomad really good here. Of course, in the second half there are bastions, so that's where Tactician is useful. So with the boom shot and the weapons that he gets. Infiltrator is also great here because there's an Asher in the third supply room. And there's some Grenadiers you'll fight as well. That's where you get your first Nasher. And then once you got a Nasher and ammo, Infiltrator is all set. One of the most powerful classes in the game. So, and then there's the fourth and fifth supply room. Before the fight, before the safe room, you got flashes and ammo in the left supply room, ammo room 4. Ammo room 5's got explosive crates, ammo boxes, and frags for Keegan or Tactician to resupply. Honestly, it wouldn't even hurt to plant frags in certain areas of the hives that you know there's going to be rejects coming. The poison puddles and the explosion can take out a lot of the reject with one frag. It would be pretty useful, especially in the second half, which I'm going to talk about just now. So there's 2 more supply rooms in the second half. The safe room's got 3 ammo crates. And then you see this highlighted section I have here. I have some text. It says Lancer GL, Breaker Mace, Explosive Crate, and a frag are all located in that general area. So in that general area, let me tell you, there are like 20 rejects and like 2 of them are bastioned. So Tactician's gonna be great here. You want to probably charge your ult in the supply room, get some booms, and then just rain hell in that room. Brawler can just tackle everything. If the bastions get low enough, the Brawler can torch tackle the bastions, which is cool. If not, yeah, boom shot, shoot a boom shot at the bastion shield with an active and it's gone. So, there's 2 extra ammo rooms too before the end. The 6th ammo room, as you see, 3 ammo boxes, 2 ensigns, explosive crate, shock, a weapons locker, level 2 weapons locker. And then the one across the hall, ammo room 7's got 3 ammo crates, 3 frag grenades, explosive crates. So maybe if you're running grenade pouch, it wouldn't be terrible high for that. There's lots of grenades on this, so. And honorable mentions, I think demolitions isn't too bad to bring here. There is a Lancer GL in the second half. Like I mentioned earlier, you want to bring probably a Tactician with the demolitions, since the demolitions no longer has launcher capacity. Sad face. Bringing a Tactician with demolitions makes him really nice. So maybe you can run Lancer GL Mastery, custom Lancer GL, and then the JD or demolitions can rain hell in the second half. Get rid of the bastions, the scions, whatever have you that spawns at the end. I've seen a veteran used here too. There's a Lancer early in the first chapter. He can use his ultimate and maybe clear like the room prior to the safe room where there's 2 Ultra Scions and a bunch of drones and rejects. Or maybe the LZ where there's a bunch of elites. I've seen him clear that too. And also his passive, when he chainsaws or executes his enemies, you take no damage. So that's cool. Anchor is another honorable mention. Mainly because his ultimate is the shortest in the game. And because this is a high with longer recharge, you want to kind of bring classes like that. So Anchor and Gunner have 2.5-minute ultimates, so that's kind of why I have them as honorable mentions. There are better classes, which is why I put different ones in my top 5. Anchor is really good. There isn't faster Venom, so you may have to kind of wait before he's more effective, but he has a Bleeding Bulldog, and he has extra health and survivability. So you can be pretty good at taking down scions before the safe room, the 2 Ultra Scions you have, or the 2 drop shot or 2 buzzkill scions you have right before the ending. Really good at taking down bastions too. I kind of feel like Anchor's underrated now because he was pretty useful, or one of the only strong escape classes when the game came out, but now there's so many classes you could run. So Gunner is really nice too. Lots of explosives, frags, things you could stun with. There is a possibility of elite hunters in the second half, so you can get a torque bow, but I think he's really good for helping your teammates get their ultimate back faster. So using ultimate battery, right? Like the gunner or Clayton will go down purposefully by a drone or something, and if your teammates just keep reviving him, they'll get very quick ult charge, which on a Hive with longer recharge is perfectly what you want. Maybe get a reject to melee the gunner over and over again, and maybe all 3 teammates have their ultimates early, so that could be a good tactic to run. There isn't really a lot of heavy weapons for the gunner until you kill the Ultra Scions prior to the safe room, but until then, the gunner is just going to be hanging around. And that's pretty much the classes I recommend for the corruption. Top 5, Brawler, high survivability, torch tackle, lots of damage resistance. Blade Master, really good. Survivability and healing. Tactician, because there's a boom shot early. And lots of frags and explosive crates. Nomad, there's a Lancer for execution build. So you can keep cycling through fear that way. Infiltrator, there's a Nasher in the 3rd supply room. And then ammo boxes everywhere, so that has to be great as well. And that is pretty much it for the corruption class recommendations and the rest of the tutorial. Thank you all so much for watching. This is the second last part of the series I'm doing. Coming soon will be class recommendations for Operation 4 Hives, and that'll be another long discussion video, so look forward to that soon. And thank you all so much for watching. Leave any comments below, and yeah, hope you all have a good one. See you.